Göbekli Tepe, definitely, deliberately finished, closed off, buried, covered with earth, covered with rubble.
Beneath a dusty hill in southeastern Turkey, the world's oldest temple has guarded its secrets for 12,000 years. But now, quantum AI has cracked its silent code, and what it found is beyond imagination. These weren't just animal carvings. They were warnings, predictions, messages meant for us. Could Göbekli Tepe's stone pillars be the world's first data storage system, and its final warning? Why would ancient hunter-gatherers encode astronomical cycles they shouldn't have known? And what could possibly be so dangerous they buried it forever? In the next few minutes, we'll uncover the truth. The stone script nobody could read. For decades, Göbekli Tepe's towering T-shaped pillars stood as silent sentinels over southeastern Turkey, their limestone faces carved with animals, abstract symbols, and strange geometric patterns. Archaeologists marveled at the craftsmanship but could never quite agree on the meaning. The carvings seemed random, perhaps decorative, perhaps ritualistic, but with no clear reading order. That uncertainty ended when researchers fed ultra-precise 3D scans of the site into a new quantum neural processor, a machine designed to identify patterns that human eyes and traditional computing would miss. The results stunned everyone involved. Quantum AI revealed that these carvings weren't random at all. They formed a deliberate sequence stretching across multiple pillars, like lines in a book written not in letters, but in stone. Each image, from the smallest fox to the largest vulture, was a carefully chosen part of a structured story. It was the earliest known script without words, a language of shapes and symbols meant to be read not on paper, but in the very layout of the temple. The AI quickly identified a recurring 4-symbol cycle that appeared in multiple enclosures: the scorpion, the vulture, the sun disk, and the headless man. Each of these wasn't simply a picture, it was a chapter in a ritual narrative. The scorpion marked danger, death, or a cosmic threat. The vulture, wings outstretched, held a sphere, the soul perhaps, or a celestial body. The sun disk above suggested divine or cosmic power. Finally, the headless man stood as a grim reminder of mortality, sacrifice, and transformation. Together, they formed a sequence of death, celestial ascent, cosmic power, and rebirth, a story carved some 7,000 years before the first Egyptian hieroglyphs. This was no random arrangement. The AI detected exact spatial relationships between the symbols, consistent distances, orientations, and groupings, just like words in a sentence or verses in a poem. Certain carvings always appeared in specific positions relative to one another, which suggested that the builders followed a strict set of grammar rules when laying out their imagery. Each pillar wasn't just a stone, it was a verse in a larger story, and the whole temple was the complete text. Even more striking, the AI showed that this was never meant to be experienced standing still. Göbekli Tepe was designed as a walk-through narrative. Visitors would move through the stone circles, encountering each sequence in a deliberate order, as though walking through chapters of a book. Each step revealed the next stage in the cycle. Each turn brought a new twist in the myth. The story wasn't just told, it was lived, with the visitor becoming a participant in a grand ritual drama encoded into architecture. To the people who built it, this wasn't passive art. It was an immersive memory machine, preserving their most important cosmic and spiritual truths in a way that could outlast generations. The layout and imagery worked together to embed meaning in the mind through movement, repetition, and symbolism. Quantum AI's Decoding gave us our first real glimpse into that story, but it also hinted that the carvings served a deeper, more personal function. They weren't just designed to tell a story. But these symbols weren't just telling a story, they were designed to reach inside the human brain itself, symbols that hack the mind. When the quantum AI team finished mapping Göbekli Tepe's symbolic sequences, they decided to take the analysis one step further. If these carvings were part of a deliberate script, could they also be designed to produce a specific effect on the human mind? To find out, they compared the shapes and arrangements of Göbekli Tepe's carvings to existing neuroscience data, specifically databases used by marketing and psychology researchers to measure human emotional responses to visual patterns. The results were as unsettling as they were unexpected. The AI found that certain carvings, especially the vulture and the sun disk, triggered emotional response patterns nearly identical to those produced by modern religious icons and even some of the most powerful brand logos in the world. These weren't vague similarities. They matched specific neural response signatures linked to awe, reverence, and long-term memory formation. In other words, the builders had created symbols that could stick in the brain, imprinting themselves in ways we only learn to replicate thousands of years later. How could a society of hunter-gatherers, living 12,000 years ago, possibly have understood such concepts? The AI's working theory wasn't that they had modern neuroscience, but that they had learned, through centuries of ritual and observation, what shapes, angles, and arrangements would spark deep emotional reactions. These patterns may have been refined across generations until they became a kind of visual technology, a way to connect directly to the brain's most ancient circuitry. But the AI also noticed something even more profound in the architecture itself. By simulating how sunlight moved through the stone circles during key moments of the year, especially the solstices, it discovered that the pillars created fleeting patterns of light and shadow that, when viewed from certain angles, formed composite shapes not visible at any other time. When these patterns were recreated in a lab, test subjects showed changes in alpha brainwave activity, the same frequency range linked to relaxed, trance-like states. This suggests that Göbekli Tepe may have been designed as an early form of psychotechnology, a purpose-built space for inducing altered states of consciousness during group rituals. The carvings weren't just static art. The builders aligned the site so that during specific moments of the solar year, the interplay of light, stone, and symbol would synchronize with the human mind's natural rhythms. In a world without writing, this could have been one of the most powerful tools for uniting a community in shared vision and purpose. Think of it, hundreds of people gathered inside the stone circles as the sun reached its critical alignment. Light pours across the carvings, completing symbols that have been waiting all year to be revealed. The vulture stretches its wings, the sun disk glows with otherworldly light, and in that charged moment, every eye sees the same thing. The same pattern burns into every mind, locking it into memory, not for days, but for a lifetime. This was more than communication. It was engineered experience, a technology of the mind and senses designed to bind entire communities into the same story, the same myth, the same cosmic truth. It ensured the message wouldn't just be understood, it would be felt, and Göbekli Tepe wasn't alone. The AI found the same symbol code hidden in cultures oceans apart. A global code that shouldn't exist once the quantum AI had unraveled Göbekli Tepe's symbolic language and its neurological effects. Researchers wondered just how unique it really was. If this was the first known visual script, could it have influenced other ancient cultures? Or was it a one-of-a-kind creation of an isolated community? To answer that, the AI team began cross-referencing Göbekli Tepe's carvings against massive databases of ancient art and iconography from around the world. The process was different from a simple image search. Instead of looking for identical shapes, the quantum eye compared the structural relationships between symbols, how figures were arranged, what positions they occupied, how they interacted in a narrative. This kind of analysis went beyond surface similarities and dug into the grammar of imagery itself. The findings were astonishing. Across sites separated by thousands of years and thousands of miles, from pre-dynastic Egypt to early Mesoamerican cultures to Neolithic China, the AI found statistically significant parallels to Göbekli Tepe's sequences. The probability that these similarities were random, less than 0.1%. One recurring example stood out: the sun-bird-human triad. In Göbekli Tepe's carvings, this appears as a celestial disk, a bird-like figure, often a vulture, and a human or humanoid form, sometimes headless, sometimes in a posture suggesting transformation. The same basic arrangement appears in early Egyptian iconography, where the sun god Ra is depicted as a solar disk with a falcon-headed figure and a human presence. It shows up again in Mesoamerican art, with sun and bird motifs linked to human sacrifice and cosmic renewal. Even in Neolithic Chinese artifacts, similar triadic imagery connects solar symbols, avian figures, and human transformation. What makes this so baffling is that these cultures had no known contact with one another. They arose in different parts of the world, separated by vast oceans and thousands of years. Traditional archaeology explains such similarities through coincidence or universal human psychology, the idea that people everywhere draw on the same basic natural symbols. But the eye's deep structural analysis suggested something far stranger. These weren't just similar themes, they were near-identical narrative blueprints. This led to a provocative hypothesis. If Göbekli Tepe's builders were survivors of a global or near-global catastrophe, such as the Younger Dryas impact event, they may have carried their symbolic code with them as they migrated. Over generations, the original story could have fragmented, adapted to new environments and cultures, but retained its core structure. What we see today could be shards of a single, much older cultural source code, scattered like broken pieces of a once whole message. The AI even mapped these parallels geographically, showing how versions of the code could have radiated outward from the region of modern-day Turkey. It's as if the memory system embedded in Göbekli Tepe was not an isolated experiment, but part of a far-reaching network of symbolic transmission. Some pieces survived intact, others became myths, gods, or rituals in new civilizations. This shifts Göbekli Tepe's significance entirely. It's not just the oldest known temple, it may be the most intact surviving memory vault of a global symbolic tradition, one that predates the rise of agriculture, writing, and the first cities. But AI didn't just find echoes of the past, it predicted where that past is still buried. The AI that finds lost temples. After mapping the symbolic grammar of Göbekli Tepe, the quantum AI team realized they had another powerful dataset in their hands: the geometry of the site itself. The placement of the pillars, the orientation of the stone circles, and their alignments with key celestial events all followed precise mathematical relationships. If this design was intentional, and the AI's analysis suggested it was, then perhaps it wasn't unique. Perhaps other sites, built by the same cultural tradition, were still out there waiting to be uncovered. The team fed the AI not just the spatial data of Göbekli Tepe's structures, but also the astronomical alignments that matched its carvings. The software mapped the angles between pillars, their relationships to solstice, sunrise, and sunset points, and even the arc of certain star constellations as they would have appeared 12,000 years ago. Then they gave the AI a simple but daring instruction: find other places on Earth where these same relationships might occur. After crunching through massive geographical and astronomical datasets, the AI generated a short list of high-probability candidates. At the top of the list was a location near the Black Sea coast, roughly 380 miles northeast of Göbekli Tepe. The AI assigned it an 82% probability of matching the same design principles. On the ground, it was nothing but rolling hills and farmland. But if the AI was right, something lay hidden below the surface. To test the prediction, researchers brought in ground-penetrating radar. Within days, they detected a circular subsurface anomaly approximately 20 meters in diameter, strikingly similar in shape and scale to Göbekli Tepe's Enclosure D. The scans even suggested upright stone formations beneath the soil, arranged in a pattern that mirrored Göbekli Tepe's signature T-shaped pillars. The find caused a quiet stir among the archaeological team. If this site were excavated and confirmed, it would be the first time an ancient monument had been predicted, not discovered by accident, not found through folklore, but calculated in advance through AI pattern recognition. More importantly, it would strongly suggest that Göbekli Tepe was not an isolated wonder, but one node in a network of ceremonial sites stretching across continents. If this network existed, its builders would have shared a unified architectural plan, a symbolic language, and astronomical alignments, all rooted in the same worldview. The implications are staggering. A prehistoric culture, spanning vast distances, coordinating their monuments like a cosmic map, possibly marking specific star alignments or tracking cycles over millennia. For now, the predicted Black Sea site remains unexcavated, awaiting permits and careful planning. But even without a single stone uncovered, the evidence from radar scans is hard to dismiss. The pillars we've already found may be just the tip of an iceberg of lost architecture lying silent beneath fields, deserts, and forests. The AI has shown us that the past isn't limited to what we've dug up. It can be mapped, modeled, and perhaps recovered in ways we never imagined. But as the team was quick to point out, the most disturbing revelations from Göbekli Tepe had nothing to do with where these monuments are. It's a sobering thought the eye may now be capable of building an archaeological treasure map for an entire lost world, pinpointing sites hidden for millennia with GPS-level precision. Each discovery it makes could connect another fragment of a forgotten network, revealing a civilization far older and more advanced than history has ever dared to admit. But the most disturbing part isn't where the monuments are, it's what they say will happen next. The chilling countdown. When the quantum AI finished reconstructing Göbekli Tepe's symbolic sequences and spatial alignments, it began looking for deeper patterns, not just in the imagery but in the timing those symbols represented. By cross-referencing the positions of animal carvings, astronomical markers, and pillar orientations, it uncovered something extraordinary. The entire site appeared to track Earth's 25,920-year precession cycle. The precession cycle is the slow wobble of Earth's axis, causing the position of the stars to shift over thousands of years. Modern astronomers know it takes roughly 25,120 years for the cycle to complete. But how could people 12,000 years ago possibly have known that? The AI's answer was simple. They didn't have to calculate it with math. They could have observed the gradual shift in star positions over countless generations, passing down the knowledge until it was precise enough to record in stone. Even more unsettling was what the cycle seemed to represent. The AI noticed that key symbol clusters, particularly the vulture, the sun disk, and the scorpion, were positioned to mark specific points along the precession timeline. One alignment corresponded with an event already known to science. A possible comet impact around 1900 years ago that triggered the Younger Dryas, a sudden mini-ice age. This catastrophic cooling wiped out much of the northern hemisphere's megafauna and may have devastated early human populations. In other words, Göbekli Tepe may not just be commemorating a disaster, it may be warning of its return. According to the AI's calculations, if the cycle continues as recorded, the next alignment matching the Younger Dryas conditions will peak between 2040 and 2045. That's less than 2 decades away. The possibility is chilling. If the builders encoded the precession cycle into their temple, they were essentially creating a cosmic clock, one designed to outlast their own civilization and deliver a message to the distant future. The sequence of symbols would tell any future observer, this happened before, and it will happen again. The fact that we're only decoding it now with the help of quantum AI raises a haunting question. Did they know their warning would only be understood by a civilization capable of such technology? The AI also detected that the pillars themselves functioned as astronomical markers. Walking the enclosure was like walking through time. Certain carvings lined up with the rising or setting of specific stars that would only appear in those positions at particular points in the precession cycle. The site wasn't just a temple, it was a living, physical calendar counting down to celestial events. And so, Göbekli Tepe's purpose may have been twofold: a memorial for those lost in the last great cataclysm, and a predictive device to forewarn the survivors of the next. A warning left across a gulf of nearly 13,000 years, preserved in stone until someone, or something, could finally read it. Some researchers now wonder if this is why Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried around 8000 before the Common Era. By sealing the site under hundreds of tons of earth and rubble, its builders may have ensured the message would survive unaltered until the exact moment it was meant to be revealed. The eye's pattern analysis even suggests certain pillars point toward areas where older, deeper structures may still lie hidden, perhaps containing more precise instructions or warnings. If so, what we've decoded so far might only be the introduction, with the real survival plan still buried beneath our feet. If the AI is correct, that time is now. The countdown has already begun, and the cycle is nearing completion in our own lifetime. If that's true, Göbekli Tepe isn't just the first temple, it's a survival manual from a civilization we barely remember. And if they went to such lengths to hide it, they must have known exactly what was coming. The question is, will we figure it out in time? Or are we already too late to stop what they feared most? Because if history really does repeat itself, we might already be living in their final chapter. If quantum AI just uncovered a warning carved in stone 12,000 years ago, what else is still buried in the earth, waiting for us to decode? Like, share, and subscribe, and watch the next video on your screen for more forgotten messages from humanity's deep past.